Elias Ward had never imagined that space could feel so quiet. The observation corridor of the neutral station stretched long and curved, its wide windows showing a slow drift of stars outside. The lights were dimmed to a soft white glow, meant to calm visitors from many species. Elias stood still, hands folded behind his back, trying to steady his breathing. He was not afraid of aliens. He was afraid of mistakes. He was not a soldier or a hero. He was a logistics officer, chosen because he followed rules and avoided trouble. That was why he was here, aboard a human diplomatic convoy sent to negotiate trade access through contested systems. The aliens who controlled this region were known for order, logic, and distance. They were not openly hostile, but they were cold, careful, and always watching. Too careful, Elias thought. The evacuation alarm began as a low tone, almost polite, before growing louder. Lights shifted from white to amber. A calm voice echoed through the corridor in several languages, including Human Standard. Environmental instability detected. All visitors are to proceed to designated safe zones. Follow guidance markers. Elias turned and joined the flow of humans moving toward the exit corridor. The station trembled slightly, like a ship riding gentle waves. It was not an attack. The aliens had assured them of that. A minor gravitational fluctuation from the nearby planet, rare but manageable. That should have been the end of it. The crowd thickened as the corridor narrowed. Elias slowed to avoid pushing the people ahead of him. Someone stumbled. Another person stopped to help. In that moment of hesitation, the floor shuddered again, stronger this time. The lights flickered. A transparent barrier slid down from the ceiling sections of the corridor apart. Elias found himself alone. He stared at the smooth, clear barrier now blocking his path. On the other side, he could see humans moving away, unaware that he was separated. He raised a hand, tapped the surface. It did not respond. "Hello," he said, feeling foolish speaking to a wall. The guidance markers on his side of the corridor shifted, pointing in a different direction, emergency routing. He exhaled slowly and followed them, trusting the station's systems more than his own sense of direction. The side corridors were quieter. The air smelled faintly metallic, mixed with something unfamiliar. Elias walked carefully, boots soft against the floor. The tremors continued, gentle but constant. He told himself to stay calm. The station was designed for this. He would be guided to safety. Then he heard the sound. It was not an alarm, not mechanical. It was small, sharp, and uneven. A cry. Elias stopped. He listened again. The sound came from a maintenance passage ahead, half hidden by curved walls and dim lighting. The guidance markers did not point that way. They pulsed insistently toward a safe zone behind him. The cry came again, higher this time, trembling. Elias hesitated. It could be nothing, he told himself. A malfunctioning device. An echo, or something that was not his responsibility. He was a guest here, a human on alien ground. The rules were clear: follow instructions, avoid interference. But the sound did not stop. It carried something else now. Fear. Confusion. Elias sighed, rubbed his face, and turned toward the maintenance passage. The corridor narrowed sharply, walls lined with exposed panels and soft blue lights. The floor vibrated more strongly here. He slowed, heart beating faster. The cry led him to a small open chamber where a section of the ceiling had partially collapsed, metal bent but not broken. And there, huddled against the wall, was the child. Elias had seen images of the species before, but never one so small. The juvenile's body was compact, covered in fine, pale markings that shimmered faintly in the low light. Its eyes were large, dark, and wet with fear. It clutched a small data slab to its chest, rocking slightly. It looked up at Elias and froze. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Elias raised his hands slowly, palms open. He remembered training about non-threatening gestures. He softened his posture, lowered himself to one knee, careful not to get too close. "It's okay," he said gently, though he did not know if the translation systems would activate. "I'm not going to hurt you." The juvenile made a small clicking sound, uncertain. It glanced at the damaged ceiling, then back at Elia's. Another tremor shook the corridor, stronger than before. Dust drifted down. The child cried out again, sharp and panicked. That decided it. Elias moved forward, slow but steady. He placed himself between the juvenile and the unstable ceiling section. He could feel the vibration through his boots. It was not collapsing yet, but it could. "Hey," he murmured, more to himself than to the child. "You're not alone." He removed his emergency cloak and held it out, not touching the juvenile, just offering. After a moment, the small being reached out with a trembling limb and gripped the edge. Its eyes never left Elia's face. Another tremor hit, and a piece of loose paneling fell from above, clattering harmlessly to the floor behind Elias. He did not flinch. He adjusted his stance, shielding the juvenile with his body. Time stretched. The station systems hummed, recalibrating. Somewhere far away, alarms faded into softer tones. The shaking lessened. When the guidance markers finally changed, they pointed directly toward Elias and the juvenile, glowing green. A new voice echoed through the corridor, this one sharper, more precise. "Alien security. Unregistered presence detected. Remain stationary." Elias swallowed. He gently wrapped the cloak around the juvenile, careful not to frighten it. He raised one hand again as security units approached, tall and smooth, their movements exact. "I found them alone," Elias said, speaking clearly. "The ceiling was unstable, I stayed." The security units did not respond immediately. Sensors scanned Elias, then the juvenile. One unit tilted its head slightly, a gesture that meant analysis. "The juvenile was classified as low priority during evacuation," the unit said. "Your presence altered protocol." Elias frowned. "Low priority. The risk calculation did not favor retrieval." The words landed heavily. Elias looked down at the juvenile, who was now gripping his sleeve tightly, eyes wide. He felt something twist in his chest. That's not right," Elias said quietly. The security units paused. Data flowed between them in silence. "You will accompany us," the lead unit said. "Further evaluation is required." They escorted Elias through corridors far cleaner and brighter than the maintenance passage. The juvenile never let go of him. No one tried to take it away. That worried him more than anything else. Elias was placed in a smooth, circular chamber with no visible doors. The walls glowed softly. The juvenile sat beside him, pressed close. Eventually, exhaustion overcame fear, and it leaned against Elias, breathing slowly. He did not move. He did not know how long he sat there before the air shifted and the room changed. The walls darkened. A presence entered, not through a door but through attention. The matriarch. She was larger than any image Elias had seen, her form commanding without aggression. Her eyes fixed on him, then on the juvenile at his side. The child stirred, lifted its head, and made a soft sound that was unmistakably recognition. The matriarch stepped closer. Silence filled the chamber. "You are human," she said at last. "Yes," Elias replied, voice steady despite his racing heart. "You were not assigned to juvenile protection. No, you interfered with optimized evacuation." "Yes." Her gaze sharpened. "Why?" Elias looked at the juvenile, then back at her. "Because it was scared," he said simply, "and alone." The matriarch studied him for a long time. The silence stretched, heavy and deep. Finally, she spoke again. "You acted as kin," she said. "Explain." Elias opened his mouth, unsure how to answer, knowing whatever he said next would change everything. Elias did not answer right away. The word the matriarch had used stayed in the air, heavy and strange. Kin. He had heard the translation clearly, but he did not know what it meant to her people. To humans, it meant family. It meant choice. It meant obligation that did not need permission. He swallowed and chose honesty because anything else felt dangerous. "I don't know how to explain it in your terms," Elias said slowly. Where I come from, if someone smaller and weaker is in danger, you help. You don't check rank or value. You don't calculate loss. You just help." The matriarch did not interrupt. Her gaze remained steady, unreadable. The juvenile shifted closer to Elias, pressing against his side. One small limb rested on his arm, trusting, certain. "That behavior contradicts your strategic history," the matriarch said. "Humans defend territory. Humans compete. Humans prioritize their own." "Yes," Elias said, "we do all that and we still help." The matriarch turned her attention fully to the juvenile. She extended a limb and the child reached back, touching her gently. There was no fear in the movement, only relief. "It refused retrieval," the matriarch said. "It would not respond to command signals. It would not separate from you." Elias felt a tightness in his chest. "I'm sorry if that caused problems." The matriarch looked back at him. It caused questions. The chamber shifted again. The walls brightened and symbols moved across them in slow patterns. Elias realized he was no longer alone with her. Others were listening, observing, judging. "Your species claims moral frameworks," the matriarch continued. "Yet your actions often align with advantage." This act did not. "I didn't think about advantage," Elias said. "I just didn't want the child to be hurt." The matriarch's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger but in focus. "You placed yourself at risk." "Yes." "For an unrelated juvenile of a rival species." "Yes." Silence followed. Elias waited. His hands rested loosely on his knees, still and open. He did not pull away when the juvenile curled closer, half asleep now. "Do you understand," the matriarch said at last, "that by our oldest definitions, such behavior establishes bond?" Elias frowned. "Bond. Not alliance, not contract," she said. "Kin recognition." The words felt unreal. "I didn't ask for that," Elias said quietly. "Kin recognition does not require consent," the matriarch replied. "It requires proof." A ripple of quiet passed through the unseen observers. Elias' mind raced. "What does that mean for the child?" "It means the child survives," the matriarch said simply. "And for me," the matriarch stepped closer. She was very near now, close enough that Elias could see fine details in her markings, patterns that shifted with thought. "It means you fall under my protection." The chamber went completely silent. Elias blinked. "Your protection." "You acted where our system would not," she said. "You preserved potential without calculation. That behavior has not existed among us for many generations." "That doesn't make me special," Elias said. "It just makes me human." The matriarch studied him again, longer this time. "Your people underestimate the impact of that word," she said. News traveled faster than Elias expected. Human leadership demanded his immediate return. Alien councils argued whether he represented contamination or correction. Analysts ran simulations that failed again and again, unable to predict outcomes once Elias' action was included. Elias himself remained where he was, allowed to move freely within a limited zone. The juvenile stayed with him constantly, following him through quiet halls and open gardens designed for calm thought. It watched him with endless curiosity, copying his movements, mimicking his pauses, even sitting beside him when he ate. Elias learned its name or something close to it in translation. It learned his. He did not teach it anything on purpose. He just behaved the way he always had. He held doors. He waited when it was tired. He explained things out loud, even when no one asked. The matriarch watched. She did not interfere when the juvenile began asking questions. She did not stop it when it chose to stay near Elias rather than among its own. She only observed, collecting something far more valuable than data: change. "This is inefficient," one council voice said during a closed session. "Attachment reduces clarity, and yet clarity has increased," the matriarch replied. "The juvenile's adaptive response has improved, stress markers have decreased." "An anomaly." "An example," she corrected. When Elias was finally summoned again, it was not to a chamber of judgment, but to a wide open space filled with light. Representatives from both species were present, separated by nothing but air. The juvenile sat beside Elias, calm and alert. "You will return to your people," the matriarch said, addressing him before anyone else could speak. Relief washed through Elias. He had not realized how much he feared being trapped between worlds. "But the bond remains," she continued. "You are not dismissed." Elias hesitated. "I don't want to cause conflict." "You have already caused transformation," she said. "Conflict is simply the noise around it." Human representatives exchanged uncertain looks. "The child will remain with us," the matriarch said, "but it will visit you, regularly, by choice." Elias looked down at the juvenile. It met his eyes and made a soft sound that felt like agreement. "And you," she said, fixing Elias with her gaze once more, "will be recognized as kin ally, a status that did not exist before now." A human diplomat finally found his voice. "What does that mean?" The matriarch turned to him. "It means that harm to him is harm to us. It means his words carry weight. It means your species has shown us something we believed extinct." Elias stood slowly. "I didn't do this to prove anything." "We know," the matriarch said. "That is why it matters." The return to human space was quiet. Elias sat by the viewport, stars sliding past, trying to understand how his life had changed without him meaning it to. He was still a logistics officer, still careful, still ordinary. And yet, somewhere beyond the hull, an alien child looked at the universe differently because of him. Reports spread, not of weapons or treaties, but of an idea that unsettled every model. Humans were unpredictable not because they were violent, but because they were willing to act without benefit. Once they chose someone, once they decided someone mattered, they did not let go. The galaxy adjusted, slowly, uneasily, but it adjusted. And Elias Ward returned home, knowing one simple truth had echoed farther than any fleet ever could.